All right. So several things have happened, and it's kind of converging in this case. Everything's coming to a head. First off, that intuitively that lawyer that you fired knew what he was doing. Right? Just clean it up and get rid of it. He read the judge. He read everything. Maybe even saw from the future. Right. So you're somewhere else. That's whatever they call water under the bridge or whatever. Right. So now you're somewhere else, right? But that's still part of it because it's all coming to a head now. So you've been like yelling at judges, and the Supreme Court asks you to slow down, don't yell at the judges. There's a whole process here that could help you. And one thing you're doing is you're digging your heels in. You're not the thing to remember is, like I told you, you're not running for office now. You're in the office, so you're responsible for disruptions in the world. You can't blame. You can try to blame Biden and the Democrats, but it doesn't work as well. And Biden learned that. He and his people tried that, and they were like, nah, right? Because they tried to blame Republicans for their problems. Right? When you're in the office, you're in the office, and you have responsibilities to the people, and the people expect you. Oh, I did see a size on my talus. It was too small. It was like a kid's talus in the wrong. Now that's a deep state kind of thing. They're weirdos, right? Well, they're trying to back me down from speaking the reality of what pedophilia is, how pedophilia is moving in our country, who's actually the pedophiles, and what they're doing to people to cause pedophilia in innocent people's lives. So again, they do the same thing over and over again, like they're doing to Trump. They're trying to make Trump feel like a pedophile or be afraid of it, so they let them do whatever they want to me or whoever else. They just bring up the term pedophile, and everybody runs. Yeah! Well, I didn't want to be around the pedophiles in LDS. I mean, you do have a point there, but a bunch of weirdos, right? So, but okay. So you added to what I said by asking him to plead guilty. I don't find that completely wrong, but I find your timetable wrong. Like, I know what happened. You're like, he will never be outside of the in custody environment, and he came out of the in custody environment. You're all sitting, hey, hey, hey. Like some autistic kid, they can't handle a little bit of disruption. I don't know what to tell you. You got Down syndrome or something. But not to sully those people. They're poor people that suffer. But again, you're not supposed to have Down syndrome and autism in the government. Right. So again, you got to lose that idea that you have to win every battle, because it's bogging you down. So the judge really did broadcast some things in that case. I'm not here to, you don't do anything for me, but I do a lot for you. But I'm not here to spend all day explaining the courtroom when you don't even want to understand it. I've been explaining it for years. And that's this. The judge didn't even accept the characterization of the case and the charges and who Abrego Garcia is. That's a big one. Right there, that you should have said, well, the judge is going to throw the case possibly. Right? I mean, that's what judges do. When they think they'll either throw it out or they'll throw the case. They'll make you look stupid in front of the jury. They'll be, bozo! And then you lose the case anyway. Now you think you're walking around like you have all the cards, and you don't. It just takes time to rein you in. Right. You piss the judges off enough, they'll make you look a bozo in front of the jury, and you'll lose the case. Right. And actually, if you look, prosecutorial misconduct is mischaracterizing the case. So the judge already thinks you're within an argument. Again, you have to get to the jury and all that. But the judge has already broadcasted that she believes you're mischaracterizing the evidence, mischaracterizing the case. I don't know where it was, but I think I did see that she was like, it was a pretty big deal. Well, and then you're smart. You're smart for tendering a plea agreement because the judge definitely um, is favoring the defendant, whether she's a liberal or not. I mean, Trump, again, what you're dealing with is Judge Cannon on the other side. That's what you're dealing with. You now have a Judge Cannon that you know how Jack Smith felt. Maybe even worse. If Judge Cannon was actually worse, I mean, right? But it's similar to Judge Cannon, and that's what you're dealing with. She favors the defendant. Judge Cannon favored the defendant. But again, it might be a little bit of that karma thing. But it shouldn't have got to this. This is the point. It never should have got to this. You made it too big. It's like you're prosecuting Chuck Schumer. I can't let it go. and maybe that's what it is in your head, that you're prosecuting Chuck Schumer. But this is like a nobody guy. He really is. In the world, I mean, I know you say what you say and you do what you do, but in the world of criminals out there, you've let so many guys just be deported and not worried about them, and they committed 10 times the crimes. Right. If anything, he's just a little, errand boy, quote unquote. And and again, I think there's people that are big criminals in this country. They just, they bought the golden visa. They were selling golden visas before Trump announced the program. The Democrats sold golden visas, man. They all sell golden visas. It's part of the corruption. At least you try to make it official. Oh wait, are you hearing me? I'm hoping you. If this is out, you can hear me. You can hear me like that. You can hear me like that. Okay, what's happening is my microphone got put out. Hopefully you heard me. Right. I think you did. I'll go through it and make sure you heard me. So what we're dealing with now is that the judge is now going to probably have a hearing. Some judges would there's judges that would be so furious that they would already scheduled something for first thing Monday morning. They would expect you to be in the courtroom at 8:30 Monday morning. Right. Or 9:30, whatever it is. Right. So there's two grounds that the judge could throw it out. Again, it's in that list. It really wasn't there, but it said investigate improper investigative tactics. You're using improper prosecutorial tactics. And there's another one that I saw, and I can't remember. I guess mischaracterization is in there. The judge doesn't believe your characterization of the case. And that's broadcasting. So you did the right thing. You're doing a plea agreement, but I don't understand. You have to wait there's no reason. I know it's probably because he's walking around with his wife and his family. Who gives a shit? This is the Justice Department. You're not like a local gang trying to vie for territory. Yeah, look at the number of cases you're prosecuting across the country, and because you were stupid and fired that attorney, you made this case bigger than it needed to be. I mean, it's insane. He's a nobody. Using all your energy on this nobody, and meanwhile, I don't even know why you didn't make deals with Maduro years ago. I'm sure you would have did it, just say don't do it anymore, right? I mean, these latest charges are pretty bad, and I'm sure it's the last 5-6 years. Right? I told you just to make some big deal. He'd have done it if he did it the right way at the right time. Right? Again, that's the same thing with Branco Garcia. I mean, I don't know what you're doing. No, because you give him time with his family, and the problem is I can't tell if you actually want him to do some time. Now, Costa Rica won't put him in jail. Oh, he stays in custody till you deport him. That's not really important. Because he may have taken the plea if you let him get time with his family, and if he thinks he's going to be. But again, the judge broadcasted, so his attorneys are probably telling him the case is already tanking, right? But the key is, if he gets time with his family, if there's some benefit of pleading guilty, like, just walking off with his family, he'll do it probably. But I don't know if he'll do it now. I mean, it's a mess. Right. You let him spend time with the family, and then he doesn't want that to go away. Actually, that's the quickest way to get the plea agreement, is to put him with the family and make him think, well, if you don't do what we say, you're not going to be with your family for a couple of years or whatever it is. But the problem is the judge is already Judge Cannoned out. So it's kind of like Jack Smith's vengeance. I wouldn't say it's that, but it's what it's like. You're dealing with a judge like Judge Cannon, but it's on the other side. I don't know. I mean, you really messed up the case at this point. That's what I would have done. I don't know. It's kind of weird how it's all fallen. Again, we get to the point where the reality is that the first attorney that was handling the case knew what to do, because he's a career guy, and he's like, we're going to fix this and get this out of our face, right? Because generally, because you're dealing with so much, and you actually have to power that. Do you know how power works? You have to power all these cases. So if you let it back up, or like one case becomes so big, there's like thousands, not probably millions of people pulling for this guy. No, some just because they're Democrats. And you're like, well, that ain't right. Well, but it is, isn't it? Same thing how Trump beat it, Right. He's now become your Trump prosecution. Right. Well, because right, well, you are probably battling Chuck Schumer, but because they're pulling for him, because you let it get that big. You see, you pick your battles, kind of deal. Now, well, like, this is what I was known for, this kind of thing. I mean, it probably was a good attorney. I don't know if he was, but he probably was. He probably would have disposed of it real quick for you. Right? That's what I was doing. Chief has a problem. He calls me up. I go handle his problem. It goes away, no headache. Right? That's what I used to do in the Marshal Service and the Federal Bureau of Prisons. You got a problem, you call me, I take care of it. I'm the fix-it man. But the real one, not a crook like Cohen. I'm the government fix-it man. And that's maybe who he was. That's all you needed, was a government fix-it person, and they'd tell you what to do, and you'd have it gone before it got too big. And then now I gave you some information, but you kind of, right. I didn't throw in the plea agreement. What I wanted you to do was get an agreement, because I think he can sue you. I think he can sue you, and that's part of what's driving him also. What I was going to say is, I said send him to Canada because it's in kind of a neutral place. They take him, and well, because you don't want him to sue you. You want it gone, and so he waives his right to sue you. That's what and then you throw a plea at him instead, right? Because I think he can sue you. I don't think he can stay in the United States, but I think he can sue you, right? And that may be a class action at one point or another, right? Well, one of the problems is that I bring it up. You don't know who. At this point, we don't know who. What's that guy's name? Bukel, whatever his name is. We don't. Again, I don't know. I'm not telling you that he's guilty of anything, but you don't know that he's not. So, well, that's the point. If he's implicated in criminal enterprise, and they get the evidence on that and present it in a civil hearing, right, it's going to kind of mess up what your representations are. And I don't know if it was legal to send him there anyway. Right. That case is still not moved yet. Well, because they can't move that case until they get evidence. I'm sure they took statements from the people in Venezuela. Now, you can say they're crooks all day, but that is a certain level of evidence. Right. I would have let him just sit with his family for a while. Right. And then what you have to do is present a scenario where he can't be with his family anymore, and he would have took it. Just stay with his family and stay out of jail. But if he believes he's not going back to jail, then Well, the case did. If I remember, I think it was that case. I think the judge did say something about not accepting the government's characterizations of Abrego Garcia, which means that she doesn't accept the case's characterizations. Now, you would have to actually, for her to throw it out just on that grounds, it would require a lot. But the fact is that she said that, and now you've coerced. That's coercion. It's considered prosecutorial misconduct. Some judges would have wanted to see you at, like I said, first thing Monday morning. I don't know what this judge is going to do. To throw out the case. That's what for. Right. Because they don't play it. Because you violated everything that you're not supposed to do. In a rearrangement, kind of plea agreement type of thing. I don't even think, there's even an argument, just the amount of time you gave him, has a certain element of coercion. Yeah, I Googled it. I can't remember how it worked, but there's usually a minimum time that a U.S. Attorney's Office would use. Again, it's not a 3 days. It's probably 7 to 14 days or something. Even 14 days is probably minimum that a good attorney would use because they don't want that argument. I felt hurried. I felt rushed. Right? Because then, because it's always more difficult to do that case a year down the road or whenever it is. Right. Like if that prosecutor didn't say any of that, it could have been ineffective counsel. Right. So that attorney actually has to say this, has to go through this, or they get dinged. That's how the system works. Yes, a defendant has rights, and of course Donald Trump had rights, and it worked for him, right? Right. So again, it's the way it really works. So you're all trying to say things that are so outlandish, considering who everybody is and what's been going on for the last so many years. Well, it didn't need to be this. This is the point, and you're doing the same thing now with other cases and other facts. Like I'm telling you, with it may be. I don't know about I don't think you should be forced to shut down Alligator Alcatraz, but it could be a blessing. Sometimes you get a blessing like that, like you move it somewhere else and you actually fix it a little better, right? With a little bit more rec, because I think they're going to balk at that eventually. I just can't. You're not really wrecking them, as far as I know. So, well, it's considered cruel and unusual punishment. You go, well, these people are bad. I understand that, but we didn't do that to Donald Trump, and he's bad. Trump didn't even get locked up, right? So again, it could be considered cruel and unusual punishment. Well, the idea is again, I don't even know what that is. That's kind of weird because it isn't even a criminal case at this point. Wait, you're saying they're criminals, but you have no. See, this is one of the things you're using, and it's kind of wacky. You're saying they're the worst of the worst, but you're not you don't have a judicial order putting them in your custody for quote unquote punishment. They're right. They're there for deportation. And anyway, I was going to explain people that are in prisons. So you don't make this mistake later. People that are in prisons are not. The punishment isn't being punished. Like you messing with them all day and all that. The punishment is, or depriving them food or whatever it is. Right. The punishment is the time they spend in custody. Hello?
I think my cat just went onto your patio.
Let me take a look, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I see it. I have to get my pants on. She come out? All right, going out. Let me push her out. You gotta go. You gotta go. Go. This way. But she's coming out the back. Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries. No worries. She's not allowed to do what she's doing. She's not allowed to do what she's doing in there. Forgot I was online. Now they were talking about something else. Some stuff information. Not her. It's not a. It doesn't have. They try. Okay. So what happens is I get information from officers in their mind, and it's sometimes time to point to that like that person. Again, I didn't tell you about this, so I shouldn't pushed it there. I was supposed to tell you about this. So they'll try. When I say when the officers say she's not allowed to do this to you, it's somebody else, and I know it's somebody else. But what they're trying to do is try to get me to focus on that woman and say it's her, or the woman at the church and say it's her, and it could be the woman at the church. I don't know, right? But I don't do that. I guess there is a woman involved, and she's not allowed to do what she's doing to me. So officers will sometimes volunteer that information, right? So that just came in as I was doing this, but they put a curse on it, so I get confused as to who it is. But I know it's not my neighbor. My neighbor could be working for them, but it's not who the officers are talking about because she's not the case agent, quote unquote, right? Or whatever represents a case agent, like the private IA officer or whoever, right? Or the CIA spy, right? So there's a lot of weird stuff that comes in the mind. You have to learn how to read it. A lot of it you have to let go because it's just strange. Right. Thanks, Larry. But where was I? So my neighbor's cat was thing looked confused. It's mostly an indoor cat. It was kind of weird because the cat does look at me all the time. So I'm like, is it come to visit? Was it know I live over here? Well, I hushed her. I rushed her out. I mean, I knew she'd win. It's an indoor cat. I'm not going to sit around long. At first, she didn't look. It didn't look like she knew where she was going. It looked like she was trying to get into my apartment. Right. And then, I thought she was going to try to run towards the door, but finally she figured it out. So again, it's just you're complicating things past where they need to be. That's the bottom line. This thing would have been shut down right from the beginning. That attorney knew. Like, you have to learn to let your people. Again, I don't know where it is now. They're all afraid they're going to get fired. But you have to learn to let your people. Like, the chief would call me, and he wouldn't even ask about it. He just goes, "I need this," and I do it, and I take care of it, and it'd be buried. And you have to worry about it. And something I did for Goose, the same thing. Right. So really, I don't, again, I don't know what to tell you because you probably soiled the trust between you and your people, but the government people, quote unquote. But you have to learn to trust your people that are capable. And that person, that attorney, was capable. He knew what he was doing. Well, because when you're in the government, okay, so like the marshal doesn't want to be bothered with it. The chief doesn't want to be bothered with it. It doesn't have to be the courtroom. It's just like, you don't want to be bothered. You want the guy or gal that's in there to take care of the issue, right? There might be some ground rules that you want to set, but that person, had some intuition and knew the judge and wanted to keep the relationship with the judge good so you win your cases and the judge don't make you look stupid in front of everybody while you're trying to try a case. I mean, hey, you're all trying to do the same thing to everyone else. So again, you don't have any room to, right. And again, Judge Cannon did that to Jack Smith. Right. It was a real case. It had probable cause, had reasonable suspicion. Right. I mean, it's just, you're going to try that case all over again if you try to charge somebody. Because the only defense is to lay the case out. I told you that before you took office and shortly after taking office. What should you do now? You want to just dispose of it again, and see, now it's in the news, so you have to we're going to look bad. Oh, we're going to look bad. So now you're stuck because now everything you do makes you want to fight it that much harder. But at this point, it might be a moot point. The judge might throw the case out. Well, he'll end up deported, but based upon the facts, if you're getting kind of dangerous territory where the court might say that it's all retaliatory. In essence, the court, I don't think, can order you to allow him to stay here, but I think they can order you not to send him to someplace like Uganda. Because again, kind of this, retaliation. Because the bottom line is, when it comes to who stays here and who doesn't stay here, I don't think a federal judge has any authority. They can just fashion the deportation if they desire. I might be wrong, but I don't think. I think the way the powers fall, I think a district judge, or even appellate judge, or even the Supreme Court can't order you to keep somebody who's not here legally here. Although they kind of did that with DACA, but he wasn't DACA, so something a little different. I think he'll end up deported no matter what happens, but I don't know if anything else will be available. As far as sending him to Uganda, everybody, like, you're trying to act like, oh yeah, it's just Uganda. I mean, right? It's kind of almost like cruel and unusual punishment. And again, that we might get that adjudicated at some point. Well, because that's what I was trying to tell you when you were sending him to El Salvador and stuff, and not him, because that was just something else. You could deport. Actually, no, I don't know if he could deport, because CIA had this problem years ago, turning over to third nations for torture. Right. So it's almost the same thing. I think they just got away from it, so it wouldn't. Maybe they did something in a secret court that we don't know about. Right. Roberts may have said something. I don't know. Back when the secret court got. Those are people that did this to me. People that would turn somebody over to a third nation for torture. They do similar stuff. So he's already told the judge that there's coercion going on. That's the first step in the judge calling you all in and throwing out the case. Well, I think the judge, in a neutral fashion, was looking for everybody to decompress for a little while. That's why she wanted all this to happen, to reset everything. No, because she has to protect the defendant also. Right. So, the right to defend it. And you pulled him in from a place he wasn't supposed to be. And it's just been a constant barrage of things. Yeah, it's very difficult to get a knowing and valid plea agreement acceptance within 7 days. 7 days will be the minimum, but 14 days will be way better. And that's without you're going to Uganda. Well, you got so much going on. It's just like, why are you hyper focusing on that?
If you have somebody other than his wife and you charge them with some sort of abuse of a person, then the court might listen. I agree. Well, because I know, and don't let them tell you that I'm guilty of domestic abuse, because I'm not. I was a battered husband. That's pretty much it. Because if I was guilty of domestic abuse, I'd be in jail. It was that one side of my life, right? Or I would have went to jail. Well, she took out a restraining order. I didn't even have an attorney. Her attorney said, "Look," and I had a cop job, right? So last thing I want is that ruined. So I agreed to leave the house. At that point, it was all a lie. She lies all the time. She even lies about all of you. Right? Yeah. They realized it was much worse to make it so my wife wasn't with me. She probably terrorized her. I don't even know if she's alive now, but she definitely terrorized them for the rest of her life. I agree. So again, there's Abrego Garcia starting to fester now. So just be careful. Again, a lot of these other people don't have any. MacGyver case could turn into something a little troublesome. I mean, it's troublesome right now. The Senate and the House and all those people are trying to give you a hard time over it. Right. Cost you Alina Habba's appointment. It definitely did. I mean, no doubt. Why isn't that coercion? Well, because you're the big boys and the big girls. Right. As I'm telling you, he's just like a nobody. I don't know what you're doing. You're spending so much time on his case. Well, a lot of attorneys would say, "Okay, what's your plan?" Say, "Okay, we're just going to bring him back, and we'll get him put somewhere. We'll deport him somewhere." That's what would have happened. Really, you know what would have happened? They'd have brought him back, and they would have deported him somewhere else. He has no right to stay in the United States, but he might. I don't think I've ever seen it done, but this is a weird case because you can't argue. They can't argue that the deportation is a revenge, kind of deportation. I don't think they can. They can argue the place you're trying to deport them to is a revenge thing, and again coercion. But I don't think they can argue that it amounts to the level that he gets to stay here in the United States. Right. But I might be wrong. As far as damages could be awarded. I don't know. Actually, they'd actually have to make an argument as to why being deported is somehow damaging, I guess. I don't think the government can lose its right to deport a regular citizen. I don't think that's possible, but who knows? But they can argue that deporting him to Uganda is part of this revenge thing that's going on. Well, again, what I say is listen to your career attorneys if you have anyone's left. I don't know who's there. Right? Your good career attorneys will tell you, the best way to dispose of a case quickly when it's, when it hits the media and it's kind of weird. I mean, the problem is you get a lot of these memes, and it could be, people can set you up to make you look bad by putting memes up there to make you feel good about what you're doing. So you had all these memes up there making fun of Abrego Garcia. And they just showed up again. But people are more worried about other things too. They're not worried about Abrego Garcia because he's only one of like a gazillion immigrants. The amount of time and effort you spend on him could be spent on other things. So your career prosecutor, or in my extraordinary case, your career, or not even career, your junior marshal, deputy marshal could tell you what to do. Yeah, my first case that I ever went into the courtroom on, with as a deputy marshal was Shelton. It was Hester. A big drug dealer. That was kind of crazy. But they didn't beat anybody up in the courtroom. They got a little bit angry, but they didn't beat anybody up. They no assaults or fights. I don't think they did anything to witnesses either. They were kind of actually mellow. Right. Let's get the agents. One agent I call Shoes. He's one of the shoes. Certain agents, their shoes jump out at you. Look at shoes. I forget that guy's name. Reddish hair, glasses. The other shorter guy with black hair. I can't remember their names. Narcotics case. But they weren't that violent. They were a little violent, but they were like standard violence. They weren't not like the Jones and the others. You gotta wait till this settles down to know what to do with it, because the judge has to. You have to find out where the judge might throw it out. Just saying, it all amounts to coercion and revenge, and it's just misconduct. Boom, gone. Like I say, your career people can keep you out of this stuff. That guy knew how to dispose of it because it wasn't worth. He knows it's not worth it. Right. It's just some low-level guy. I mean, you didn't even know. Like, the point is that you didn't even know the information that you were able to get later through an investigation, but you made a lot of deals to get it, so that makes it even look screwed up. Right. Well, I'd have just wanted his signature. He wasn't going to sue you. That's what I would have, based upon what you're doing. I mean, because if Abrego Garcia is, they might do Abrego Garcia a year later. Who cares if he's sipping mint juleps in Tahiti? Who gives a shit? Who really gives a shit where he is a year from now? In the bigger picture of what we're doing. I mean, you're fighting this Abrego Garcia thing, and we're talking about sending drones into Mexico. And you're worried about Abrego Garcia and wasting all your power on that. You should be minding that mission. At a certain point, we might have to interdict Chinese ships, so I'm not sure what we're going to do there. Right. It's a pretty big diplomatic quandary, or whatever they call it. See, again, we got things we got to think about. And you're thinking about this guy, Abrego Garcia. He lived in Maryland. We caught him in a van with people. Well, again, we know there's cases. Again, here's an example. I'll give you this. So I think I brought it up recently. So, as Deputy U.S. Marshal, we find reefer. We don't want to spend the time, right? When it was legal and all, I don't even know if it's illegal. Most places it's not. But We don't want to spend time on reefer. We're looking for this murder fugitive, this guy, homicide fugitive, got a homicide warrant. We're not worried about that, about some reefer. Right. I mean, even if you're looking for somebody with fentanyl, so we're not going to, I think we dumped it out a couple times or something, but that was it. Right. But so when we look at Ortega Garcia, yeah, I'm railing against human trafficking. But again, we're looking our priority is a higher level of human trafficking. If you can provide evidence, and I don't know if you do, you might have it. If you can provide that evidence that somebody was abused, like he was just routinely abused people, and don't make up evidence. Again, that's where the case is getting twisted. It looks like you might be making up evidence. And I know you do that. There's no way you could have stayed in my life, these people, all these years without creating bullshit evidence. Right. Well, the point being this. If you can prove he was delivering people to sex trafficking, then you can do something with it. If you can prove, because you know what? He may not have been working for some contractor to bring these people into Maryland to work a specific construction job, but they may have been, that's maybe all it was. He was bringing them into Maryland to somebody who was going to place them in work and, finish what it is for them to be here in the United States doing what traditionally people did as of that time you pulled them over. I mean, you had a good state for prosecution. Tennessee's a pretty good jury that could do it. Right. I'm gonna have to look closer at the case, but again, if you could tie him to sex trafficking, if you could prove that van and all that for sex trafficking, then maybe you still could do something if they don't throw it out. But I mean, I told you before that people drive people all across this country, and like the ag people, they'll pick them up in vans and take them to the farm across the United States. But you're talking about like that's a good thing. You know what I mean? You're not understanding. You don't understand the bigger picture of how this all works, right? So there's the underground workforce, which you condemn. But again, when he was doing this, it was an accepted thing. He's not running the country; other people are. Right. And it's only this administration. Last time, the administration still had agriculture people that were undocumented, and you didn't do anything about it. Right. So I think that's the time period. I'm not sure. It's definitely before this administration. So it runs like clockwork. They have a system that runs, pretty much runs like clockwork. You need 10 people for your farm. You put through the network, you need 10 people. There's 10 people down in Texas. You send somebody down in Texas, pick them up, and they take them up to wherever, Indiana, Iowa, and they work on the farm. Pretty much just standard duty. And then again, if they need clothes, they'll front them the money and everything. And they keep an account. And his job, he gets paid to transport. But meanwhile, they have people for the farm. And again, they probably have to pay back the transportation fee. Right. Yeah, it's just how the migrant workers, the underground workforce works. Even if they work for Starbucks or something, that's how it's done. Right. Well, because there's a manager, manager might be Spanish and might say, "Hey, I need a few people," and then the other manager, "Well, okay, we'll get some people up." I mean, some of it's organized crime and racketeering. I agree, but you're the ones that are, part of it. I guarantee Trump had a similar stuff happening for him. People were driving people across the country for working in Trump places. So again, it's just really weird what you're all saying and doing. Right. Well, what do you expect him to say to the cop? I got 10 people and I'm taking them to work in Maryland. Where they're going to work, I don't know. You see, they'll pull him over and start searching. You don't want to be searched. He has no idea where they're going to work. If that was true, I mean, for all I know, he was taking them to a construction site. I don't know. May have told him that. They may have said, somebody may have said to him, you need to go down to Texas, pick up 10 people for construction work. Right. Then that could be evidence that would kind of derail. Well, this is what they told me. I thought these 10 people were going to do construction in Maryland. Meanwhile, the people testifying against him, I think, are the people that he gave them to or something like that. Right. So again, all I'm saying is the same thing I was saying before. It's just not worth it. I mean, if you think about all the cases that have happened since then, all the cases that you're thinking about, there's just no reason to spend that much effort on that kind of case. Because you're burning your power out instead of focusing on cartel people. And in fact, like I said, people are out here paying millions of dollars for a visa, and they're dirty. I know they're dirty. As long as they paid $1 million, they're not dirty, though, right? It cleans them up, right? It's kind of like the anti-God. What's that? Peter. They call him Peter, but what's his name? Shimon Bar Yona's vision. What God makes clean, don't call dirty. What money makes clean, don't call dirty. That's pretty much where we are today, to include the church. Right. So again, when do we see that? Roman Catholic Church did that in the Inquisition. During the Inquisition, if you're a rich person, I mean, it looks like the Inquisition. You all must have been reincarnated Inquisition people. That's what it looks like. Because they have, what do they call them? I said it the other day. Indulgences. You pay money and then you're no longer a sinner, which means the Inquisition no longer has an interest in your life. So if you pay like $1 million, you're no longer a sinner. You pay $1 million, you're no longer a criminal immigrant. You're now on your way to being a citizen. Pay a little bit more money, you'll be a big citizen. So again, he's not the fact that he doesn't have a lot of money, he's not a big threat. But again, I think you're still hiding the people with money. I don't think this is by accident. So, like I'm saying, he's nobody. I don't know why you spent that much time on him. Well, maybe you're kind of new to the, but the idea that you fired somebody that wanted to take care of it and dispose of it, that's just like crazy. No, you don't want to fight everything. I see you didn't like put Trump out driving around D.C. that much. Maybe I didn't see it, but that was going to be bad. You got to learn more to respect people and process a little bit. That's really what y'all need to do. Well, because what you're doing is going to work to whatever level it works, and it's a shame to make it so stupid with like Abrego Garcia. You think he's like he's like El Chapo or something? He's not even. El Chapo probably wouldn't even consider him for like this. Maybe one of the lookouts. He'd consider him for a lookout, probably. He could stand on a street corner, and give a phone call if he sees somebody coming. Right. I mean, I think we have less talk about El Chapo. We did. We had less talk about El Chapo than we do Abrego Garcia. It's just boggles the mind. It's where my life went, This kind of idiot people. They just do whatever they want because they're just ignorant. And you listen to Satan all day. No, you just made a bad case worse. See, that's why you don't do that, because you get so ups. I bring it up all the time. You just let the cases go. You don't get emotional about them. You stay as, I mean, you can be emotional personally, but you don't. It's like being a special operators. You don't let the situation control your emotions, or you're going to mess up and be dead, right. Or commit a crime and go to jail. Right. Well, you got mad because he's out there with his family. I mean, give it a few days. And then there's people who could have told you how to handle that plea much better. I don't know if there is, actually. I don't know if anybody's left. Gregor C was a nobody until you did that. But now Chuck Schumer knows. He's a household word of every immigrant in the world, as well as the Democratic Party. Expect him to run around and viva, viva, viva Abrego Garcia. Underlay, underlay. That is a risk. They become some activists. Right. That could have been handled right away. So, to revisit El Salvador, you have people making statements. They can't sue you from Venezuela. So I'm really confused as to where those cases are and why they're moving so slow. Not those cases, but other cases in relation to that. Well, actually, all right, they decided one. But they didn't decide the confinement conditions, did they? Well, what I'm getting at is what I said before. You don't have a commitment order, or the judge, the sentencing order. You're sending people with knowledge that they're going to be incarcerated. Right. Well, so this point, haven't received a day in court. Now you could say you know that they were going to extend the date for another year or 2 years, whatever. Right. Well, the Venezuelans are out. That's right. Forgot about that. So is anybody left? Is anybody left deported to El Salvador and CCOT? I guess you dispose of those cases generally by letting them out. Right. Runs along. It's just what I'm hearing is it looks like there's going to be quality of life issues brought up at a certain point in Alcatraz. Just make sure whatever you build from here on in has rec yard and sufficient showers. Like, the thing is, for the officers, the more showers, the better. Right. So if I can take 20 people in there and have them in and out in 5 minutes, I'll be happy. Right. So again, you think you're being tough on the inmate or the detainee, but officers have to, escort them to the showers, watch them while in the showers, and then bring them back. But if some of those places, they just let them take the showers, and easier, they don't have to watch them. Okay, so I read about alligator Alcatraz. It didn't have that much use, but I don't think the use has changed, really. If you used it for some military exercises, that's probably more of a risk of contamination, which doesn't mean that the judge would have allowed that if somebody would have balked at it. Or would have allowed, yeah. They may have said the same thing if somebody actually sued you when you were doing military exercises. But what I don't find is that the use is any more risky than previous use for the same area. Because if you're using it for military training, you got all sorts of stuff that can harm the environment. Even more so than like a correctional environment, right? Or a correctional facility. So I don't think, probably for that type of judge, that's not going to be a defense, because she'll say, well, then you can't use it for that either. Right. She's made up her mind, which is how you might win this thing, at least for the time being. Now, if she didn't make up her mind, she's not going to order you to take it down within 60 days. Right. But the other court, she's trying to represent to the other court that she didn't make up her mind. Investigatively, there's a conflict there. Well, you can tell them you don't think you're going to get a fair trial because she's obviously made up her mind. Why would she tell us to take it down completely? Because she knows that that's actually too much of a burden for like a temporary thing. Right. She can tell you to stop operations and wind them down as fast as you can if they accept her ruling.
Y la invitan a retirarse. Shake your body, baby, do that conga. No, you can't control yourself.
Hi, I'm Julie, CEO of your favorite Southern themed restaurant, and I want all of you to know that we hear you. We fucked up.
That's like, what is it, AI? I don't get the move to the new image. You all want to look great compared to. I mean, I'm not a DEI or anti-DEI. I'm not even going there. The whole Cracker Barrel thing. I mean, the new image, the new emblem looks stupid. Right? It's a downgrade. Right. So again, Brega Garcia just got bigger, like I was trying to tell you. Well, you threw some extra stuff in there, and I don't know what. maybe your attorneys are afraid to tell you not to do it. I don't know who said it has to go, how you transmitted what you transmitted, and whose idea it was. But you can't do that kind of stuff. It's definitely prosecutorial misconduct. I just don't know what the judge is going to do. No, it's clear-cut coercion. Some would even say the short window is clear-cut coercion because you offer it and then you pull it back real quick, and it's like, well, if you don't take it off today, it'll be off the table. That's a form. Because most people know, and they may be afraid to tell you this, that in every rearrangement, they ask if they felt, are you sure about this? Do you have sufficient time? Are you feeling, anybody coerced you? If they say, hey, they told me if I didn't take it in a day, I would never get a deal and I'd be on my way to Uganda. I don't even speak Ugandan. And last time I remember, they were like cannibals or something, eat people. So again, well, it got yous. You do. You're again. You have a great deterrence program going. I understand that part of it. I just don't know how legal it is. Come to the United States illegally, you get deported to Africa. We don't care where you're from. And if you're from Africa, we're going to send you somewhere else. We're going to send you to El Salvador if you're from Africa. Right. So the deterrence is working, right? But there are limitations. You just you stepped over the line. And again, I don't know if that much deterrence is necessary. You are succeeding without it. Right. I'd send them to Canada because nobody would complain. Because then it would be quiet. Okay, they're sending us to Canada. If Canada takes them, I mean, nobody complains. There's no immigrant, if you deport them to Canada, would complain about it. You wouldn't get sued. They wouldn't even curse you. Oh, we're going to Canada. What's in Canada? Actually, they do have a Canada. Remember that guy? I think it was Canadian, or was it Washington State? I think it was Canadian, Vancouver. He was making sausage with people. They got cannibals in Vancouver. Making sausage with people and giving it to his neighbors. Here. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you at this point. It's just old habits don't die hard for all of you, I guess. Stay peaceful. Praise God.